From the northern shores and woodlands to the west, it's history. From copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fishery. To the farmlands of the southern counties and east to Chesapeake Bay, look at all that waits the sportsman across the USA. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds and the snow, the stillness of the forest is encased in Arctic cold. The wind might whisper through the trees, listen to it say, the beauty of our great outdoors across the USA.
Hi there, come on in. If you enjoy fishing, but you don't have a boat, you don't own lakefront property, you don't have a big dock, where can you go and still catch fish? One of my favorite places that I believe is an extremely underrated type of fishing in this country is pier fishing. You find lots of piers down around Florida and along saltwater, but freshwater piers are kind of hard to come by. We found some in the Great Lakes where we caught all kinds of fish one evening. Join me for some pier fishing, some broiled fish on English muffins, and a lot more. I'm Fred Trost. It's time for the Outdoor Digest. Saltwater sportsmen are way ahead of freshwater anglers when it comes to opportunities for accessible fishing. Bridges and piers are common along the oceans, but few major fishing structures exist on freshwater lakes. This is one of the very few Great Lakes breakwalls that has a walkway for anglers. Along these rocks, down 10 to 12 feet, all kinds of fish congregate, and fishermen have a safe and comfortable way to walk out and fish along these rocks. The breakwalls were originally constructed to protect the river mouth and the boats that are tucked in their moorings upstream. And the South Pier has the walkway, but the North Breakwall, according to John Hook, is tougher to get to, and it's not as crowded. You mean to tell me that all these people who are out here on the pier walked along this?
Yeah, they had to walk out that beam to get out here.
That's dedication. That's dangerous.
Yeah, there's been people hurt.
That's unbelievable. I didn't know. We came up with the boat, but it doesn't look like there's anybody else who brought a boat out here.
Nope. Normally everybody walks. Very rarely does anybody tie up to the wall and come out.
Huh. Boy, that's precarious that way. Now, is this fishing better on this side of the this North Pier?
It normally seems to be a little better. Besides, you don't have as many people out here because of, that'll get jammed up on that side come dark. They'll be shoulder to shoulder all the way over there, you know, and there's no way you can really, it's all catfishing, and there's no way you can cast or anything else, you know. So
this little barrier here, this little 100 yards or whatever it is, 75 yards.
It'll be pretty healthy to walk out that beam.
Connecting the rocky jetty from shore to the concrete platform at the end of the North Pier is a heavy metal fence of sorts. It's a wall that has a small I-beam running above the water line. This narrow beam is how anglers get to that exclusive North Pier. They carry their fishing gear in backpacks so both hands are free to hang on. You can imagine how precarious this can be in rough water, in cold weather, or just after dark. A cameraman, John Ford, made plenty of jokes about how I shouldn't even be out here at my age. Told you. Kings, what else is in here?
About any kind of fish you could catch anywhere in Michigan, you catch right here. Catfish, sheephead, crappie, rock bass, smallmouth, largemouth, pike, muskie, walleye, perch, king salmon, of course, and you name it, you can catch it from right here.
Now, these fish are all attracted, of course, from the Ausable River flowing down here.
The river holds a lot of bait fish, you know. Naturally, everything else is feeding on them, so they're here, you know.
Now, what are we going to catch? It's about, 8 o'clock.
Right now, you could, possibly if you tie it on a spoon, get into a king over here right now. And right now, you'd probably catch rock bass and perch right here, sheephead. And once it gets towards dark, the crappie will start.
About at dark?
Yeah, about a half hour, 45 minutes before dark, we start picking up some crappie.
Fishing with what?
Using jigs or using minnows. They'll take minnows pretty regularly. And once it gets good and dark, then the cats really crank up. You catch them two at a time if you get two hooks on. And the walleye come in. And there's a few muskie and pike swimming around out there taking your baits every now and then. You just pop, set the hook, and you got nothing.
Oh, this is great.
That's pretty good, sir.
One common species that's fun to catch, I don't care what people say, is a sheep's head or freshwater drum. They put up a good fight, and when you boil the meat, they're terrific eating. After dark, the sheep's heads stop hitting, and a new era begins on the pier. Sort of like when the tide changes in saltwater, a new run begins. Different fish go on the feed.
Oh, look what I got. I got one on here.
Well, mine is going to get obscured.
There you go.
My 4-inch rock bass was totally upstaged by what we thought was Bob Garner's good fighting walleye. Turned out to be not a walleye at all. It was a smallmouth bass.
That's a nice bass.
Oh, that is a nice bass.
Huge one, but it's nice.
All right, Bob Garner. We were really after walleye, channel catfish, or perch, but so far we caught sheep's head, smallmouth bass, and my 4-inch rock bass. Okay, maybe 3.5, but rounded off, I'd say 4 inches. That was the only smallmouth bass of the night, but we did catch bigger rock bass. If you want to catch channel catfish, it's a good idea to re-rig with a slip sinker. I'm using a Lindy-type rig, a snelled hook clipped to the snap, is baited with nothing other than America's favorite bait, a night crawler. And unlike rigging for trout or walleye, where you hook the crawler once, you gob it up on the hook for channel cats.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, that's all right. I'll eat that, boy.
Channel cats are popular because they're good eating, especially when they come from clear, cold water. They're known as a southern favorite, but a lot of people go catfishing up north. This is an average-sized channel cat for northern states. Down south they grow bigger, but this size is the tastiest. But if it's walleye you want, try casting a Rapala or Rebel minnow, one that sinks. They'll be cruising along the rocks a little deeper. Sure enough, casting catches the walleye.
There you go.
Well, it's not a trophy, but walleye this size are plentiful. But consider what difference it makes on how you fish, how you rig your line, your bait, and the species you catch. When you're pier fishing, you learn all this by the other anglers around you. And consider the variety of species we caught or saw caught from our end of the pier. A keeper walleye and a keeper smallmouth bass. Toss back that rock bass. Channel cats on worms, crappie caught on minnows, one king salmon from the Lake Huron side, and the biggest walleye we saw that night. Oh, man, that's a nice one. And sheep's head? Whoa, a stringer full of freshwater drum. I'm a pier fishing fan, and if you'd try it, I think you'd be too. So we caught a lot of fish off the piers. We didn't use expensive equipment. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't need expensive boats, depth finders, anything like that. And pier fishing can be extremely productive. How do white-tailed deer benefit from their highly movable ears? Because a deer can move each of its large ears independently, and each is so effective in gathering sound, a whitetail can pinpoint different sounds coming from 2 different directions at the same time. Earlier in the program, we fished off of a pier. Very inexpensive way to fish. There's another inexpensive way to fish. If you know somebody who has a little lake or pond, just get a little rowboat. You can go out with some live bait and catch some surprisingly big fish like we did one day last spring for a big northern pike. This is a beautiful northern lake, Chris. You know, it looks like a little pothole that you'd find up in Ontario somewhere.
Yeah. This is a typical northern Michigan lake, and most people wouldn't think it would hold a lot of fish.
Well, it isn't very big. What, a couple acres?
Yeah, it's probably 8 or 9 acre lake is all. Yeah.
And you said to me, it is loaded with pike.
Yeah, this time of year, they really bite.
How deep is it out there?
It's only maybe 15 or 20 foot deep, but it's got a very silty type of a bottom to it. And I wouldn't want to get out and try and stand at the bottom of that lake.
Well, when I first saw it, there's a lot of edge, a lot of cover, there's lily pads and weeds and fallen trees. It looks excellent for pike or bass. What do they feed on in here?
Oh, there's an abundance of life out there. Just all kinds of different species of fish. The weeds, and it's great habitat for fish in general.
Got some bluegills in there?
It's got bluegills. It's got bass, pike.
Okay, now, the weather this spring has really been screwball. I mean, this is more like an October day. Here we are in about the middle of May, and wind shifted around and is now from the north, and it cooled off. Now, what does your experience tell you we're going to find?
Oh, I think we're going to clean up today.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, you betcha. You betcha. I was very happy to see it cool down. And I could use a little bit less wind, a little bit more clouds, but the cool weather, I think, is going to help us out.
Now, what's the strategy?
Cast lures till your arm falls off. We'll catch something.
Just lures, no minnows?
Well, we'll throw some hardware first, and if that doesn't get them going, then I've got some secret bait we'll put out there.
Okay, now, when you're talking hardware, what kind of hardware?
I like to use spinner baits myself. They get around through the weeds. You can just about cast them anywhere and not get hung up. It's easy to take out of the fish's mouth because they're just single hooks, and that's what I like to use.
You cast right up next to the shore or out towards the drop-offs, or what?
I generally like to start off casting to the shore, pulling them out into the deeper water, and if you don't find them there, then we'll start casting out in the deeper spots of the lake. But they'll be one place or the other.
Now, a lake this size, I'd presume it would be just full of little hammer handles, 18-inch pike.
There's a lot of those in there too, but there's a good range of fish in this lake. We got the big ones all the way down to the small ones.
How big?
That's a tough question. Well, we'll see some 3-footers out there.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Maybe not today, but they're out there. Oh, you bet. Yeah.
Pretty darn. So, is the fishing best? Do you find pike fishing best right now in the first or early part of May, mid-May? Of course, this is the first year that the season opens before the 15th. But is this the best? Does it go downhill from here?
The next 2 weeks from here will be the absolute best pike fishing that there is, except possibly for the fall. Late September, early October is also good. But this kind of a lake, if you don't catch them in the next 3 weeks, you'll be out here all summer, and you wouldn't think there's a pike in this lake. It's just amazing how they shut right down.
Now in the fall, I mean, you being a taxidermist, and I know a hunter, do you spend much time fishing in the fall when we all know it's great fishing in the fall?
None.
None?
None.
That's what I thought.
None. So my fishing's right now. I've got to get it in because in the fall I'm hunting.
We got a fish on. That seems like a smaller one, or what?
I don't know.
What do we make of this? Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah,
There he goes.
Here, take a drag now.
Why, that is a small one.
Oh! Feisty those guys, huh?
Now, this little pike is a feisty one, but that's one of the attractions of the northern pike. They battle right down to the end. Up till now, we caught fish all around this 9-acre pond, but we hadn't tied into a big one. Now, you find you catch the smaller fish in the shallower backwaters, or are there big ones in there too?
There's big ones everywhere in here. Everywhere. I've caught them every spot of this lake.
Now, you sold this fishing trip. You sold me on this a couple months ago. You said, you got to come up. We're going to slay the pike.
Yes, I still believe that.
You believe it?
I still believe it.
I certainly hope so.
Yes, so I certainly do too.
Got him? Looks like it is. Like he's running that way. That's what we like to hear.
Boy, this is a big one, Fred. Whoa!
Well, I hope so.
Oh, man.
I hope so.
It's the kind of times you wish you changed
Ooh, we gotta see him. We gotta see him. Oh, geez, oh, Pete. Oh, no. Hey, this net is not big enough. You have another net in here? What the heck? I can't believe this.
Fred,
What are we going to do with this shallow net?
get him with the head. Go around.
Oh, golly. I don't know how.
In the head. Get him in the head. In the head.
Boy, that's easy for you to say.
The head, Fred. The head.
Bring him back here. Okay, if I can keep him this direction. Oh, jeez, oh, Pete. Oh, this is great. Oh, Chris.
Yeah, you
Congratulations.
did it, eh?
Woo-wee. This is a real thrill. Holy cow, look
I
at
can't believe it.
it. Hooked right in the corner of the mouth. Removing a hook from a northern pike's mouth can be tricky. Well, they're loaded with long teeth down each side. The tongue is covered with teeth, and so is the roof of its mouth. It's a vicious predator, puts up a mighty battle, and can really get your adrenaline pumping, especially one this size. Oh, what would you say he weighs?
Oh, that's probably 12 pounds. I'd say he's 12 pounds. He's not real long, but he's heavy.
Oh, he is a heavy
He's a heavy pike.
That's great. Well, we're going to put him back. Doggone it, I tell you.
I hate to do that, but
Forgive me, folks, for doing this, but it's Chris's lake, it's Chris's fish, and he says he wants to catch it again when it's bigger. Oh, there it goes. Oh, man. Chris.
don't you feel good you did that now?
That was outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Hickson, his backyard pond, and that big northern pike. A memory to be caught again when it's even bigger. You know, years ago, I would have thought, geez, we should keep a big pike like that. That's the big trophy we want to hang on to. Well, we got the pictures of it, turned it back, and that's a big spawner. That'll reproduce and provide a lot more of those smaller eaters that we can take home. So if you don't want to keep a fish to have it mounted, think about turning back some of those big ones. But the small ones, oh, we have a bunch of great fish recipes like this one coming up.
Carol Felstow has sent us an excellent recipe for broiled fish, kind of a different way to use it.
On English muffins.
On English muffins, that's right. And
Island
we're going to use
dressing.
walleye now. Carol says that you could use walleye or salmon or just about
Walleye.
any kind of fish.
That is the most beautiful fillet. Walleyes, when
it
you get a
is.
good close-up on those.
Yes.
Ooh.
It's a mild fish. And then you're going to broil your fish first.
Hold it, you didn't put any spices
Nothing.
or anything
Not
on
a
that?
thing goes on it. Just broiled fish. And then your English muffins, you're going to toast those. And then go ahead and put Thousand Island dressing on the English muffin.
You should have put more on that. I hope I don't get that one. I like more of that stuff.
And then top that with a tomato slice. And then when the fish is done, that will go on top. But you could grill the fish. I suppose you could put it on the grill outside if you want to at that point, too. And then on top of this goes your Swiss cheese.
Ooh.
And then you make sure you put the Thousand Island on the top of the English muffin also. You're going
You
to
mean
put this
on the top after?
after this. But this, you just want this to melt. You don't want to leave this in there for a long time, just till it gets good and bubbly.
Could you do that in the microwave, I wonder?
No, it wouldn't be. Well, I don't think it could. It wouldn't be as. It'd dry out for one thing. English muffins.
Well, it tastes like pita bread or something.
I think it's
pretty good.
the Thousand Island dressing. Gives it a different taste.
If they like tomatoes, Thousand Island dressing, and gosh, who doesn't?
You can do it with.
Just about any fish.
You can do it with any meat. You can do it with bacon. Can you imagine like a BLT like this?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sold.
You could do it. You know, you could boil sheep's head.
Sure.
Like we caught on the pier.
Yep.
It would be good with that. But see, I'm a kind of a big boy nut anyway. With that Thousand
Hey,
Island.
that's
on
it. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's almost like a big boy.
Yeah.
On pita with fish and
Yeah.
a bunch of different. Broiled fish on English muffins. What an idea. What a taste. The recipe is in a... Well, that was it. Number 3 in our Outdoor Digest, hopefully continuing series for a long time to come here on public television. Some stations may have just joined us, and this is the first episode they're airing. We welcome you, and hopefully a lot more to our network in the months ahead. But remember, if you don't get anything else out of this program, get outdoors this weekend if you can, because it's a great place to be. See you next week. Next week on Outdoor Digest, well, I tell you, I wished I could tell you exactly what we're going to have on the air, but you know, we produce this show each week, a new show just a few days ahead of the airing when you see it. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get some northern smelt dipping in or if we're going to get some spring salmon from the Great Lakes. It just all depends on the weather and how the fish are responding and what we can get on tape. But whatever you do, join us next week because we'll have an exciting show right here on public television.